Occasionally.
Man, that's a children's book they don't put on the shelves anymore. The little engine that could sometimes. Hey, kids, most of the time you're going to fail. But you should try anyway because capitalism.
It does have the benefit of being true.
I don't think... But the thing is, we didn't even try. There was no failure. We just chose not to even try. It's worse.
The little engine that didn't feel like trying.
Hey, welcome back to Even More Mashed Up. In case you've forgotten, we are the pop culture podcast that talks about all things pop culture. I am Alan.
I'm Patrick, and yes, like a Jedi who has gone into exile in the desert and brings himself back, we return with another episode of the podcast, talking about Kenobi.
I see what you did there. It's strange, though, that you already announced what we're doing. Usually there's like a moment of suspense where people have been waiting
teaser
for a month, and then people have to guess.
People have been waiting for a month and a half for another show anyways. Like, I feel there's plenty of suspense.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yes, and Rich, the Chewbacca to our Han Solo, is also here.
I feel like I'm more the C-3PO.
Rich, there was really a moment for you to do a Chewbacca yop right there.
I was not even going to attempt it.
Also, the fact that you choose C-3PO over Chewbacca.
I'm just being honest. I'm not choosing. I'm simply recognizing the truth.
Okay, to be fair, I mean, C-3PO is useful a lot of the time.
He is not.
I was going to say,
ever.
I bet Patrick is probably a big fan of C-3PO.
No.
Why?
You loved it when you were a kid, though.
No. Oh, he's fluent in 6 million forms of communication.
But he doesn't...
He's like isn't he like a diplomatic droid or something?
He's a protocol droid.
There you go. That's what I was going to say.
Which is
I'm
basically
clearly
the same
well
idea.
prepared for a Star Wars episode.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes. If
I am
the
100% ready.
If the show was on C-3PO, yes, it seems like you're really prepared.
Unfortunately, the show is not.
No, it's on Kenobi.
Well, Rich doesn't know if C-3PO's in it or not because
Star
Wars fan Rich hasn't even watched
Star Wars fan Rich is sick of Star Wars.
Just wait till he hears that Mara Jade shows up in it.
There's a what?
It's not true.
Okay.
No. Mara Jade.
No.
Yep, she shows up on Tatooine.
What do you mean she just...
Does she really?
What do you mean she just shows... What do you mean she just shows up? She's not in... This is an expanded universe thing that's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Isn't Patrick going to get really upset because Rich has abandoned Star Wars and he thinks I've abandoned the MCU?
Well, no, because...
Seems like this would be time for Patrick Rage.
No, your previous betrayal on the MCU has numbed me to further betrayals.
So you're used to betrayals.
Star Wars betrayed me.
I'm not even sure what to do with that.
Sorry. I didn't...
That was a little bit too honest of a statement there, Rich. Like that there was a lot of passion there. Like
it's at first when I heard The Mandalorian, I was like, oh, cool. More Star Wars stuff. It's about this kind of thing that doesn't have anything to do with it. It's not really a prequel. People thought it was Yoda, but it's not. So cool. But then Boba Fett happened. It's like, okay.
Yeah, Boba Fett was not very good. You're right. It was pretty average.
I didn't think you watched Boba Fett, average.
I watched season 1. Remember, I complained because he said he had to get that beast to ride because you couldn't walk across the desert, and he rode it across the desert, and then he walked back home.
You're talking about Mandalorian season 1, not Boba Fett season 1.
Oh, whoops. Sorry, I was talking about Mandalorian. Yeah,
you said Boba Fett.
I did not watch.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not watch Boba Fett. No.
And I watched some of it, and I gotta tell you, it's boring.
Yes,
it's Boba Fett being a nice guy. And I don't understand why. I mean, I get why it's Disney. But I'm done. First off, I want Disney, with all of its access to stuff, I want it to do stuff that's new. You know what I mean?
See, this is the problem, Rich. Disney's doing to Star Wars what it's done to the MCU. It's just because it can crank out content, and the easiest content are stories that have already been told. They are slowly strangling the things Patrick most loves to death.
And now they've made themselves a situation with streaming where they're actively incentivized to make quantity over quality because they need, like almost like a 24-hour news cycle. They need to keep constantly making things. You know, they can't sit there and think about how are we going to make this good or unique or whatever. It's no, make it.
It's 100% true. I was just messaging with Danny on the Discord before we got started here today. He said he watched the first 3 episodes of Kenobi and he quit.
Yeah, I can't imagine any of it's good. Like, it's Ewan McGregor, I think, right? I actually don't know much about this show. So that might be the only positive to it, is because I think he was pretty good.
That's largely what is the attraction to the show, is seeing Ewan McGregor play Kenobi again. And you've also got, what's-his-face playing Anakin/Vader? Oh, Hayden Christensen. He's back as well.
Oh, yeah. I'll be honest.
You got Jimmy Smits back, right?
Yes, you've got him back as Bail Organa. Yep.
It'd be neat almost in this nostalgia way to see those characters. Unfortunately, you've got the rest of the show around them happening.
Rich, it's like they're taking nostalgia and they're shoving it, like such great quantities of nostalgia, and they're shoving it right down your throat that you can't even enjoy the nostalgia.
And it's so blatant. It's so blatant what they're doing. It's not like, 100%. Here's a bunch of Easter eggs and stuff.
100%.
We know why you're here. Here's your hit of nostalgia. Here's your copious. Here's your buffet of nostalgia. No, there's no
because
good writing.
You know what I really needed to know from Obi-Wan Kenobi? Where Leia got her holster from.
Right, like
it's an important detail.
It's so important.
Very important.
It's fan service that's so obviously fan service.
Well, it's clearly a question that fans have been asking for decades: is where did Leia get her holster?
It's like Michael Bay dumping an entire semi-truck full of Coors Light on the road, just like smacking you in the face. But at least Michael Bay knows what he's doing and he's making fun of it.
At least there's explosions in Michael Bay.
I'm not. Again, let's not go down the Michael Bay.
Really cool explosions.
Yeah, nobody has ever bought my Michael Bay argument.
Yeah, no, that's because you're Michael Bay. That's because
I
Michael
would
Bay
gladly watch an entire marathon of every Michael Bay movie before I ever see Kenobi.
Rich has joined me.
Like, I'm full on, because you know what? It's like
the bitterness is strong in those two.
This is a man who's been spurned, right? You can hear it in Rich's voice.
Because it's like, I don't
He was
care
in love.
about, what drives me up the wall is that it's all so much prequel stuff too. Is that it's like, where did the holster come from? You know, where it's all the sense like, why can't it just continue on past the movies?
They did that.
You've already made
that was the 3 movies we got. The Force Awakens.
And those are going to be the movies they make in the future, right?
I guess.
They can't do anything that really matters.
Alan, why
Disney
make movies when you can just make crappier TV shows that's way cheaper?
Well, I think that's a good question, but I think they must be making more money on the movies.
Or at least the merchandise.
These are just the opiates to keep you in a cloud of Star Wars.
So you don't drift away and go to like Netflix or something.
Exactly. Patrick, are you okay? I feel like this is going to be a tough episode.
I'm fine. You guys clearly have some issues to work through, so I'm just giving you the space.
I this is almost like a therapy episode. I just venting about Disney Star Wars.
Before we came on, I messaged Danny and I said we're talking about Kenobi, and I said it was going to be brutal for me because Patrick and Rich are such huge Star Wars fans, and Kenobi, like, I can kind of take it or leave it. I did not expect I was going to step into the room and Rich was going to drop this on us.
Yeah. God,
Hey, Rich, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you think that we're post-peak Star Wars?
Yes, absolutely. No, we hit post-peak. Boba Fett was post-peak.
Mandalorian. I would say Rise of Skywalker was post-peak. That was
no. Rise of Skywalker was like on the edge.
No,
where
Rise
it
of
was
Skywalker was well over the cliff.
They could have been, because again, Mandalorian wasn't too bad. You know what I mean? Mandalorian was at least kind of an interesting concept.
No, it was awful.
Yeah.
Mandalorian?
Yeah. The last good Star Wars thing that was made was Rogue One.
Did Rogue One come out before or after Last Jedi?
I have no idea.
Who cares?
Because Last Jedi was good. I liked Last Jedi.
Rich is just totally given up.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I mean, you know what? I like The Mandalorian because it was slightly different. And I think I realized that, like, you're right. It wasn't that good. But it was just... First off, because it didn't show his face. And it was like, what was that Judge Dredd movie? Where, like, they never show his face?
Well, the
that's...
Mandalorians don't take that particular segment of the Mandalorians don't take their helmets off.
No, I know.
Well, that Mandalorian sure did.
That's what I'm saying, though. Beforehand,
that's to show how deeply he loves Grogu.
That's what I'm saying, though. No, that's stupid. Okay.
And Grogu is stupid.
Yeah. But, like, that part I liked because it was like, kind of committing to the idea of, like...
I've tolerated a lot today. I will not tolerate the Grogu smack. Okay?
Oh, no, Grogu's...
I draw the line at the trashing of Grogu. Okay? I've put a lot from you two in the last 17 and a half minutes.
So, if Grogu's a child, and I don't know if he is, because
he is. He's only like, what they say, like 100 years old, and we know that Yoda lived to like 800, so...
So he's like 10 or 15. He's like a teenager, kind of, in the reference. The point is, Grogu needed to be hit a bit more as a child to just stop doing things.
Wow. Wait a minute. I want to be clear that the podcast does not condone nor support in any way Rich's
not
theories
anybody else.
on child raising.
Not children's, no. Just Grogu.
Yeah,
But you just said he's a teenager.
Yeah, you can't.
You've just advocated.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Even if he was 80 years old, he should have still been hit more.
No, okay.
Again, I think it's time to be clear.
I think it's time to move on.
Yes.
Just at one point, Grogu was eating the children of somebody that the Mandalorian was transporting. Just a heads up. Remember, that what happened.
Yes.
Consistently, he was told not to eat the children of somebody.
Well, no, they're eggs. He just ate eggs. We eat eggs. Those were technically children of chickens.
They're unfertilized eggs.
And I do not eat them.
No, that's true.
Yes. It's also too. So there's certain people who don't.
But to Patrick's point.
Yes.
Go ahead, Rich. You want to finish your Grogu should be beaten point? No, please.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree. We should move on. I agree. We should move on.
So.
Yes, I feel like...
I kind of have my notes.
I feel like we're beating a dead Grogu.
I wish.
Well, yeah. Rich beat me to that one. I wish my leg wasn't so bad. I definitely would have been in on that one.
I have notes on Kenobi, or what I like to think of my Kenotesby.
Have you been waiting 18 minutes to drop that?
I've been waiting for the appropriate moment, yes.
Okay.
Have you been waiting months to do that?
No, I came up with that like earlier today.
Okay.
Kenotesby.
So, I don't know about you, Patrick, but my Kenotesbys are organized around things I liked, things I didn't like, and then I had a series of questions for you because I know you like to be like the comic book expert. I assume you like to be the Star Wars expert too.
Well, I feel like that's usually Rich's niche, but I feel like he's
not anymore.
He's overpounding in the corner.
From me.
So,
I don't know. According to Disney, I don't know anything about Star Wars as far as Disney's concerned. All my knowledge is fake.
Okay.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man. Rich is coming in hot.
I don't know if it's the heat today or what.
This is a lot. Yeah.
Man, I've never seen this side of Rich before.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Rich should have given us some heads up that this was going to trigger him. I feel like that.
I wish I had known.
Yeah.
I wish I had known.
He hasn't even seen the show,
Rich,
and Kenobi has triggered him.
He didn't even try it. Exactly.
I didn't even see the trailer. I saw the thumbnail from Disney Plus or whatever, and that was enough.
And that was it for you. That was it.
So, yeah.
So, just in case Star Wars or Disney ever wanted to sponsor the podcast, though, why don't we start with the stuff we liked?
Yeah, I feel like we're going to get... I mean, based on the conversation so far, I think we're going to get through that very quickly.
Yeah, it's going to be a short list.
I assume you have stuff, right?
I mean, the show was fine.
No.
It wasn't... well, I mean, again, it's got the same drawback of, like, any prequel, which is that, there are very little stakes in the show. Like, you get to the end of the next to last episode... when Reva finds out about Luke on Tatooine and being Vader's father, it's like this whole thing of like, ooh, she's going to go to Tatooine and she's going to kill. No, she's not. No one that's involved in that situation can be killed. Luke can't be killed. His, uncle and aunt can't be killed. Obi-Wan can't be killed. Like, the only person who could have been killed is Reva, and they don't kill her. So, like, there was just there were no real, like, there just wasn't a lot of stakes to the show, particularly that moment.
Yeah. So we're off to a strong start on what we liked, which is good. We've really righted the ship, and now we're moving in a direction.
I like Ewan McGregor as Kenobi.
Yeah, I agree.
Like he's always good to see. I like that Hayden Christensen got a chance to actually be Darth Vader as opposed to only being Anakin so far.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like a cool idea.
And I know
that's just a cool idea though. It's more a cool idea.
They've both Ewan McGregor and Christensen, they developed a very close relationship. So I'm also happy for them to be back together. Like they sort of see themselves as brothers based on their previous experience. So it's kind of nice to see them, interacting.
Yeah, and I thought McGregor was good, and I thought the other two things you mentioned, like they're nice ideas, but I don't know that they really added a lot to my enjoyment of the actual show.
Well, I mean,
opposed to
can they add to something that doesn't seem to really exist?
Yeah, it's a nice idea in a show that doesn't matter almost.
Yeah.
There was one here. I'll start with something now. Don't get upset with me that I really enjoyed at the start, but then I thought faded over the course. At the very beginning, I felt like this felt like a throwback to a Star Wars film, like one of the original trilogy. At the start, it just had the right vibes and a nice feel to it. Now, over the course of the show, there were way too many throwbacks.
Yeah,
but initially, there was kind of an atmospheric vibe that I thought captured something of an old-fashioned spirit.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of like Rogue One, that I think very much sort of felt like it was, in terms of the design, like it felt like it was the 1970s Star Wars, in terms of the looks the looks of things, like
exactly.
Yeah, Kenobi had not as much or as well as Rogue One, but it did. I agree, it did have some of that vibe.
That was the part of the nostalgia that felt somewhat effective to me. That atmospherically it felt nostalgic. A lot of the other nostalgia I will complain about.
Yes.
Anything else you liked then?
I liked that the show once again kind of confirms that the Jedi suck. None
of us liked this show.
I thought I didn't like, but this has been my point all along, is, this is what the Jedi do, is they are defeated and then they go into exile and wait for the younger generation to fix all of their problems. So, I mean, Kenobi's arc...
That sounds familiar.
I mean, Kenobi's arc in this film is basically Luke's arc in Last Jedi. They're both in exile and, depressed about their failures. They're both cut off from the Force and have to, learn how to reconnect. And that reconnection happens via their interaction with a young female Jedi, Rey versus Leia. But at the same time, there's a very clear arc in terms of Kenobi's development. Is, by the end of it, he's reconnected with the Force. He's back to being, the badass Jedi that he was, so that he can spend the next 10 years just hanging out on Tatooine.
That was the question I wanted to follow that up with. That after all of this arc that kind of establishes all that you've just talked about. He's just going to spend the rest of the time going back to being a lonely hermit on Tatooine, right?
I guess, yeah. I mean that's we're going to get Kenobi season 2, and he's going to have another sort of adventure that fits into the interstices of the Star Wars universe, but can't really matter.
Again, unless they're going to do an alternate timeline. Yeah, there's not much he can do that matters. Yeah. Unless they just start inventing more villains that never existed before.
I mean, the nice thing is they do have I will give them credit for, particularly in terms of the Obi-Wan Vader relationship. They did, I think, use continuity well, because in A New Hope, when Vader senses Kenobi's presence on the Death Star, he says, it's a presence I haven't felt since, and then he trails off. He never says since when. So, it does give, it's since that time on Tatooine. or whatever. So, I give them credit for, like, they did find a way to have Kenobi and Vader interact that doesn't completely blow up Star Wars continuity. I mean, other things in the show completely blow up Star Wars continuity, but...
So, but as you started talking about a season 2, I think that would make me even more unhappy than Ben just going back to be a hermit.
Well, so far they've said
like
it's just a limited series. That they've not said that there is a season.
Good. The idea that he's going to spend the next 10 years going off on secret missions all around the galaxy while he's protecting, the future Jedi savior who's being hidden with his family, which seems like a really terrible hiding place.
Not just with his family, but under his original name. Like, He's Luke Skywalker. I mean, again, they're not good at disguises. I mean, he literally changed his run from Obi-Wan Kenobi to Ben Kenobi. Like, it's not the most brilliant strategy.
How many Kenobis are there in the galaxy?
Clearly, maybe Kenobi is like Smith in the galaxy.
But you'd think the Empire would just kill every Smith then? Like, whatever, we're going to wipe out 10% of the galaxy.
As it turns out, the Grand Inquisitors are really bad at their jobs.
Yeah, it turns out everybody's bad at the jobs, thankfully.
Well, the Inquisitors also show up in Rebels. They're a big part of Rebels.
Yeah, are they bad at their job there too?
Yeah, actually, they kind of are now that I think about it. They don't really. The other thing they're really bad at is naming, because the fact that the name of their actual building is the Fortress Inquisitorius is about the stupidest thing ever.
Yeah, it's so Star Wars, though. It's so Star Wars.
It is very Star Warsy, but it is kind of like, I cannot believe they actually called it that. So yeah, these are the things we liked about the show, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Apparently, these are the good points.
Let me pitch another one to you.
Okay, is it the child actress playing Leia? Because you love child actors.
I was just literally going to say, I do not like child actors. And no, I did not need young Luke nor young Leia in this. And in many ways, it felt very forced. But it did feel like when Star Wars originally opens to R2-D2 playing that message, from Leia to Kenobi, it felt like a richer understanding of that exchange, maybe created by the show.
Well, except for the fact that in the message she says, General Kenobi, you fought with my father in the Clone Wars. She might have brought up, also there was that time you saved me from the kidnapping by the Sith, and we escaped from Darth Vader on a planet. But
some things don't need saying, right?
I don't know. That just it didn't. That's one of the continuity things that didn't really work for me. I'm like, why would she emphasize the relationship with the father when she knows Kenobi?
Right.
Like, she knows him. They hung out for a while. It's like, you remember my father. All right.
So
yeah, it's a weird.
So I tried.
So anyways, you liked something about that, right?
Well, then it set up like the relationship between the two seemed more resonant. Although you've kind of beaten my point up pretty well. So I guess I retract that as a positive.
Okay.
I've got one more.
Oh, okay. Is it her cute little droid? You love cute little droids.
Almost as much as kid actors.
Yes.
Don't even get me going on the cute droids, which I'm going to assume you loved because you always do love them.
I mean, her droid Lola was fine. I mean, at this point, because someone keeps mentioning the cuteness of droids and how manipulative it is. I can't really enjoy the cute droids as much, but I do enjoy the noble sacrifice of the Ned B droid, the big worker droid that sacrifices himself.
So do you mean that really?
Yeah. Ned B is the breakout star of Kenobi.
That must be
for
the
you or for
saddest
everybody?
positive.
A lot of people. It does seem like Kenobi. A lot of people liked Ned B. Yes.
Yeah. You know what? The whole droid rights thing just always grates with me, as you know, because we've talked about this.
Yeah.
And
it is a
so
problem.
do you not support droid rights?
No, he does.
I don't remember Leia being a big supporter of droid rights.
None of the good guys are a supporter of droids' rights. They're all very at the end of New Hope, when they pull R2 out of the X-Wing and he's like completely blown up, and C-3PO is like, oh my god, everyone's like, he'll be fine, and they walk off. I'm like, that's kind of cold.
Well, it's just a machine. Who cares?
Yeah, we should.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
So there's two questions.
So apparently, Rich is fine with beating up droids too. So
Well, I think there's a difference between Grogu and Ned 3, but even if there isn't,
okay, it's Ned B.
Why was Leia so?
It's Ned B.
Whatever. Clearly, the show did not really resonate with me. Why is she so committed as a youngster to droid rights, but by the time she's an actual princess, she doesn't care?
It's just a fad.
No, well, I mean,
there you go. The problem of shoehorning in civil rights for droids in all of these prequels is it makes all of these people look like complete asshats in the movies.
She's just your typical white liberal rebel that, talks a big game about equal rights and everything, but when it comes down to it, she's only interested in the equal rights for the people that look like her.
I mean, she owned 2 droids when she was an adult.
I just want to point out that Patrick is now trashing not only the character after whom he named his dog, but seems to have completely come over to the side of me and Rich, which I am stunned by.
It is possible, and I do hate to say this, that in terms of things like Star Wars and the MCU,
yes.
Go on.
It does seem to be succumbing to a kind of half-life in that things are getting less and less compelling.
Almost as though it's at a peak and gone past it?
Wow.
Yes. It's almost as if we've gone past a peak, and it seems like there's no real desire to do something different, but just sort of kind of mining, in the MCU, just kind of mining the Marvel Universe as a resource, and I guess in Star Wars, just kind of mining nostalgia.
Yeah.
Because
I feel like if a therapist were here, the therapist would say we've had a real breakthrough today.
Yeah, we've had a real epiphany moment.
Yeah. Sorry, Patrick.
No, it's fine.
I think I talked over you.
No, you didn't. I don't
know why I'm so happy about this.
It's
the things we love are being destroyed.
I'm I'm watching these things, and they're all kind of okay. Like I don't hate them with a visceral hate like Rich apparently.
Right.
But it's kind of a law of diminishing returns. Like they're not doing anything all that new or exciting, and so every single one that comes after one is sort of a little less compelling to me.
In all honesty, your resignation is even more heartbreaking to me than Rich's anger.
Yeah,
You just seem like a man who has been completely beaten down.
I'm not beaten down. I am still waiting in hopes of something that's going to surprise me. I mean, I will say that I was pleasantly surprised by this season of The Boys.
I'm a couple seasons behind on that, so I need to catch up there, too.
I was pleasantly surprised by this season, because I thought it was going to be one thing based on what they were advertising, which I was not at all interested in, and it turned into something actually. I thought this was probably the best season of The Boys.
I will have to catch up then.
So, but yeah, like I feel like MCU and Star Wars in some ways, we talked about this before, like they're kind of treading water right now. And I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good description.
And I don't know that being a part of the giant mega corporation of Disney is going to really allow them to do anything more than tread water. Because there's not really, we talked about this before, there's not really a motivation for them to take risks.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so now you've become a Marxist, too. Boy, a lot of breakthroughs today.
Yeah, well, don't we all eventually become Marxists?
That's not been my experience in America, but who's to say? My third thing that I liked, and I got to admit, you've already beaten up the other things that I liked.
We are still on the things that we liked about the show.
Yeah, apparently.
this is my last one.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hate, what was his name? Haja Estri, the fake Jedi?
Oh, yeah, Kumail Nanjiani's character.
I didn't hate him.
Okay.
That's it. That's my list of things that I like.
Yeah. I mean, he was fine. I mean, they're not really asking Nanjiani to do anything but be himself largely in shows at this point. Like it's he basically shows up and does what he does. I did like the idea of, but even then, I liked the idea of like the fake Jedi and using that to exploit people. But then, of course, they had to redeem it, and that he's actually getting people off planet and saving them. So even if he seems bad, he's not bad. And again, it just ends up feeling a little bit watered down.
Oh, no, I agree. I liked mostly the personality and not the story.
Yeah. So, but I mean, he was fine. I liked I forget her name. The Imperial that was working with Kenobi, the one that gets killed. Tala? Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked her, but I also liked that actress. She was really good in Game of Thrones too, so.
Well, yeah, and of course she had to die.
Yeah, you saw that coming. I'm like, she's dead. I mean.
Yeah.
So, but I did like her.
Anything else on the positive side of the ledger for you before we move to things we didn't like? As if we need to move to do that?
Is it a positive if I feel like people were too hard on the actor that played Reva, Moses Ingram? That's what that.
Yeah, I would say it's a positive for you, but it's really a negative in the way in which the community of Star Wars fans came down on her.
Yeah, the community of Star Wars fans. So a lot of it kind of sucks.
Like even if Kenobi had been good, it would be kind of hard to watch it and celebrate it with those kinds of people.
Yeah, well, and the other thing too is people are like, "Ooh, she's a terrible actress. I hate her character." I'm like, "Well, she's a villain. You're not supposed to like her character, so she's probably doing a good job."
Sounds like she did a good job.
Yeah, and again, well, and the other thing too is everyone's like, "Oh, she's just another, diversity, hire casting or whatever."
The racism stuff.
And I'm like, okay, so now we've moved from complaining about switching characters from white to some sort of non-white portrayal, and now we're just complaining about having non-white actors in Star Wars. Period. Like that. I'm like, that's,
you're verging on another breakthrough there, Patrick.
Like it just, like the that
you're very close.
This is where we're headed. Is just like, oh, okay, so Star Wars just needs to be as lily white for this segment of the Star Wars fan base.
Bingo.
As it always was. I'm just like, oh, it's so
exactly 100%.
So,
another breakthrough that Star Wars has to be white.
I will
people to like it.
To put this on a positive note, I did like that, McGregor and, the Star Wars, the producers of the show and everything were very clear and straightforward in denouncing the criticisms and supporting Ingram. So I thought
better than they have been in the past, right?
Yeah. So I give them, again, I think that was credit. And I thought, part of it is that, her character does have a kind of relentlessness that does kind of make her off-putting, but I'm like, that's her character. It's
right.
No, she's not supposed to.
So I agree with that.
Yeah. So,
but can I ask you a question? One of the things that I had trouble with Reva was understanding kind of her motivation.
Yes.
Throughout the whole show, especially when she, at the end, spoiler, Rich, where she goes to kill Luke Skywalker.
No.
I don't want Rich to know whether Luke survives or not, But her whole point was to get close to Vader.
Yes.
Right? Kidnapping Leia was a contrivance to get close to Vader so that she could kill Vader.
Yeah, well, it was a contrivance to get Kenobi out of hiding so that Vader would come confront Kenobi and she could somehow take advantage of that to confront Vader.
Right. It was a big contrivance to begin with.
Because, Vader, he's somebody who sneaks around and hides a lot.
Well, it also depends on that she has to know that Kenobi is still alive, which, again, she is convinced. She's right. She's convinced that he's alive, but there's no real reason given for why she's convinced that Kenobi's alive. So that is a bit of a gap in her.
Right.
But back to
after
your point.
she gets stabbed, right? After she gets stabbed, why does she then target Luke? Like, how does, like, her whole point is avenging the younglings who are all, mowed down.
Which, Luke was involved in
Anakin,
somehow.
Right?
Well, I think this is how I read it. So why
would she? Yeah.
Well, because I think it's again, she's failed in her effort to get Vader. So in that moment when she hears the message from, I think it's Organa to Kenobi, that not only reveals that Luke is on Tatooine, but reveals that Luke is Vader's child. I think she decides, I can't get Vader, but I can go get his son. But again, you obviously realize, like, well, she's not going to kill Luke because she's going to take one look at Luke and be reminded of the younglings that were killed in front of her. And then that's exactly what happened. I'm like, she's not going to kill Luke. Like, well, she can't kill Luke, but she's also not going to kill Luke because she's going to be reminded of the younglings. I'm like, yeah, this is, you could see where the ending was going. But yeah, I read it as that. So and also it's like, yes, you're going to get revenge on Vader by killing the son he doesn't know exists, which is also kind of
even that makes no sense. And by the way, when people get stabbed by lightsabers, apparently it seems like they pretty much always die.
Generally speaking, and yes. Everyone, except in this show, everyone gets better.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, Reva has apparently survived a lightsaber stabbing twice because apparently she was stabbed by Vader as a youngling. And then now I'm like, okay, so we get better.
Yeah, I didn't, as much as the character put people off, what put me off at the end is I didn't buy it.
Yeah.
It was written to try to create drama that you've pointed out couldn't be real drama because Luke, and by the way, we also know that Uncle Owen is going to be okay too.
Yeah. Yeah. Again,
and we also
know not die.
And we also know Leia's
paradox will happen.
We also know Leia's going to be okay. Like, there's nothing that can happen to her.
No, right. Absolutely.
So,
So do you have anything good to say about the show? Or should we move on to the stuff we don't like?
Oh, I did and I wish we could have seen more of badass Aunt Beru. In like the moment where Lars is like, "Oh, what are we gonna do?" and she's like, "We're prepared for this moment." I would have liked. I like to imagine that Beru has hidden like blasters all over,
like blasters, shotguns.
They're like just all over the place. I did like that little moment we got from her where she's like, "No, we're gonna handle this," and like she's got a plan. I wish they had given a little bit more for her character to do.
So you liked a solid like minute and 42 seconds of the show.
That was in addition to the other like roughly 6 minutes that so I think we're up to a good like 7:45. Oh man. No, I mean, like, again, I'll always enjoy seeing Ewan McGregor as Kenobi. Like, it's always fun to see that. I like that. And again, like I said, I like that this show continues the same themes about the Jedi that Rian Johnson tried to do in Last Jedi and was basically crucified for, that I think are actually valid points about the Jedi, is that, there's a lot of ways that they are deeply inherently flawed. So I think there is some stuff that the show did that thematically that I liked, but again, it's just the show could have no real stakes, and the stakes that it tried to create. Like I get the whole, we've got to bring Kenobi back to where he was. I'm like, yeah, and then he can sit in the desert for another 10 years. Hanging out with the ghost of Qui-Gon Jinn. Oh yeah, Qui-Gon Jinn's ghost appears at the end, Rich. So yeah,
why not?
Kenobi in my mind is still way better than Book of Boba Fett, which Book of Boba Fett was not good.
Book of Boba Fett was boring.
It was boring.
Besides the fact,
well, and I don't think you got this far in the series, Rich. Is that
maybe like two episodes? I think.
Well, because around episodes 4 and 5, you basically went away from the Boba Fett stuff, and you got 2 episodes of Mandalorian.
Which I like Mandalorian way more than Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, but in the middle of Book of Boba Fett, that you have to spend 2 episodes on and it's not like it's important stuff. Like it's Mandalorian getting kicked out by the Mandalorians he was hanging out with. It's him and Grogu getting reunited and Grogu rejecting the Jedi.
Nobody cares about Grogu.
Like, it's huge stuff in terms of Mandalorian continuity that takes place in 2 episodes of Book of Boba Fett. And then
I ran out of stuff to do in Boba Fett.
And Book of Boba Fett has a similar issue in as Kenobi does, is that, the whole point of Boba Fett is, he wants to be, he basically is going to take over Jabba the Hutt's territory and be like the big Tatooine gangster. And like from the get-go, everyone was like...
But nicely.
But at the get-go, everyone was like, well, why would the bounty hunter Boba Fett want to do that? And the end of the show is Boba deciding, yeah, you know what? I'm not really good at this. I should go back to being a bounty hunter. Like, it's completely pointless. Yeah. It's like, yes, all of the reasons that made this a bad idea is what the show kind of comes to in the end.
And they could have had him do that in the first episode and then go back to being a bounty hunter.
Yeah.
So it also begs the question of...
Instead of being like corporate management. It's like, oh, that's great. He's now...
It also is weird because then like...
He's Michael from The Office.
Yeah.
A person wants to try different career suits on, just to see what fits.
Yeah. Well, even the actor portraying him has complained, so... But
yeah, well, he's complained to Vine because he's like, this is a dude who's supposed to be so badass and cold that like everyone's dead around him.
Yeah. So, Alan,
but to your point, Patrick, that the show seems kind of hemmed in by the fact that it's a prequel, which I you've heard me complain about prequels for a long time. Like they never feel the same.
I mean, to be fair, that gets lost in your general complaints about post-peak superheroes.
No, I do. I've been complaining a lot lately. Your point is
complaining.
Taken. But it's like, I remember when I went to see Fury Road with Bobby, and we left, and I said, so what we just watched was, a 2-hour movie or whatever, where they drove out the road and then drove back.
Yes.
Like, that's essentially
awesome.
It's what this series has to do, is it has to drive Kenobi out, and then they have to bring him back home. Mm-hmm. Another way in which I think the series is hemmed in is it felt kind of cheaply made to me in a couple of ways.
That's been a common complaint of people.
One of which you guys have heard a lot from me, but I'm going to say it again. Some of the stuff is shot so dark that it may as well be a radio program. It just disastrously dark. And then what's the name of the little village on Tatooine that the
Mos Eisley?
Inquisitors come to?
I think they're in Mos Eisley.
Oh, I thought that was just like a cafe or a casino.
No, Mos Eisley Katina is the Katina in Mos Eisley.
Oh, there you go, Katina. Yeah. Oh, it's like the Wilkes-Barre Cafe.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
Mos Eisley is the Wilkes-Barre of the Star Wars universe, which actually works on a lot of levels.
Yeah. I was literally today years old when I learned. Anyway, I thought that Mos Eisley was it felt really confined.
Yeah.
And tiny.
Well,
it felt like there was no scope to it. It 100% felt like a set instead of a town to me.
Well, the one that most people have complained about is the scene where they first met Tala, when they drive up to like that Imperial outpost on whatever planet they're on, and literally it's just a gate with like a couple of stormtroopers. Right. Like that's the one that a lot of people complained about. They're like, that seems really cheap. Like, it's a.
You mean the gate they could literally just walk around?
Yeah, exactly. Like
blasting.
It's kind of like, that's the one that I saw a lot of people was like, well, that seems like. It's kind of the same thing with Book of Boba Fett. It's like they literally, like every episode was Boba Fett like walking around to the same 3 locations, and talking to people. And I was like, this is like. They clearly have issues with what to do because he's literally just doing the same things in every episode. Right. But yeah, the complaints particularly about some of the sets being a bit lackluster, particularly given that they're filming in the dome, which is entirely virtual. They can project almost anything. Say,
that was probably, I think that's your point though, is like even though the dome can project anything, it still limits what you can do. You know what I mean? You can't have a chase scene. Not actually. I'm sure they have a chase scene where it's like, okay, run this way, cut, then run this way, cut. But you can't like, there's when you only have like 10 feet to work with, so to speak.
Yeah. I will say that generally speaking, I did like Deborah Cho's directing of the show.
I don't have any kind of directorial complaints about the show. I don't think it was anything revolutionary.
No. But it also wasn't. It wasn't completely like Boba Fett felt very bland to me.
Yeah. No, I thought it was well done even, but the sets upon which the directing took place just felt.
Yeah.
After the beginning, I very rarely felt like I was immersed in a real environment.
Yeah, that's fair.
I felt like I was looking at set pieces.
Yeah, I think that's
the show.
I think well, and again, it's again a product because you're also seeing a lot of complaints, particularly in the last couple of days, about the visual effects in MCU films, and I think again it's a product of things being cranked out so quickly that I don't think there's time for the quality of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
So I have a quantity over quality.
Yeah.
I have one more big complaint, Patrick, and then a bunch of questions. But go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, I may be hoping that kind of this groundswell of people complaining about the cheapness of the VFX and the cheapness of the sets in Star Wars maybe gets them to maybe course correct a little bit.
Well, if even more mashed up can't course correct for them, I don't know what could.
Well, I meant the complaints that we're making that are more general. I'm not sure they'll necessarily listen to us.
Oh no, I meant they would listen to us.
Absolutely.
That's just my.
They haven't.
That's just my optimism. So far as we know.
Yeah.
Maybe they made this just to spite us.
Yeah, that's clearly what they do.
That's the power we have.
Yeah, we'll teach them a lesson.
Yeah, well, it clearly worked in Rich's case.
Wait till they say Book of Boba Fett.
Because Rich came to this show spited.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
100%.
So now they're going to make it good because, we've achieved what we wanted to do. We pissed them off. Now we can go back to making normal stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. Quality stuff from here on out.
Yeah. So did you say you had another complaint?
One thing, yeah. And again, I began by saying I kind of liked the old school vibe at the beginning. But that very quickly turned to, that I really don't like tropey stuff, right? Like the movie's done this in the past, so we have to do it again.
Yes.
That they have to infiltrate another huge Empire installation, I find very irritating.
Yeah.
I don't care that this one's built under the ocean or whatever. It's the same thing. Now, they do it in 8 minutes, which also makes it seem like a weird setup. It almost feels like, this is just like a pin we need to knock
To
down.
be fair, it's very consistent for the Empire to have the one way that you can get into their facility or the one way that you can blow up their facility.
No, again, true. But this is where I feel like the nostalgia is overtaking any effort at storytelling. Also, of course, one of the Resistance pilots has to die.
Well, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Also, quick question for you. If you were going to build an evil, malevolent, undersea Death Star.
A Fortress Inquisitorius, yes.
Yes. Would you put windows in below sea level?
As many as possible.
Yeah, you want to see the sea life.
I would put
windows in. It can't all be building Death Stars and hunting down Jedi. You got to take time to pause and look at the aquatic life on the planet you just conquered.
I would put in screen doors at certain points so you can let some of the cold air from the water in.
Honestly,
cool
Rich, I swear to you, the way that they had windows all around this facility, just waiting for somebody to, blast one out. Because God knows the Stormtroopers still don't hit anything when they shoot.
They may not be windows. They might be like a force field. It might not be like a glass window. It might be like a force field.
Which is even worse because that means if the power goes out, all of them go, all those holes, all those windows become holes.
Well, yeah.
The point being, it didn't take a lot of hitting, a lot of contact
again
to shatter the window.
But to be fair,
and, honestly, Rich, it was like I thought you would walk around the corner and there would be a screen door in there somewhere.
To be fair,
it's like slightly ajar on the wind.
Poor engineering is kind of on brand for the Empire.
Okay, again, fair, but so stupid.
And the other thing too is also not just the Jedi sort of sucking. But the fact that the Empire can't find Kenobi on the planet where he's still going by that name, and they can't figure out that Luke Skywalker hanging out there. The Empire's not great either. Like, it's sort of like, how did you not find these guys?
No, it's fair.
They're literally on... It is one of the things that kind of bothers me about... I think this goes into your point with nostalgia, is one of the things that bothers me about kind of modern Star Wars is everything happens on Tatooine, which is supposed to be a remote planet. Like Luke says at the beginning, you know, well, if you're looking for the furthest place from the center of everything, you're here. And I'm like, really? Because everything seems to happen on this damn planet.
Well, literally 10 years ago, the Grand Inquisitors showed up and they killed a Jedi, and there was all kinds of fighting. And
at some point,
and he had to run into the desert, and he had this confrontation.
Yeah, what they
Reva.
What they need to do is they need to do like a short little 5-minute video that's literally like the researcher for the Empire. And like, hey, we've got to find these people. It's like, have you checked out Tatooine? Because it's always Tatooine. Like, we should just go to Tatooine and just get it out of the way, because
Tatooine should be blown up. Like, they should get another like mini Death Star just to blow up Tatooine, because it's clearly like the hub of all rebel activity.
Yeah, except that it's also completely remote and nobody goes there.
Except everybody important.
And also nobody.
It
makes no sense.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So I think I have a series of questions for you, Patrick.
Excellent. Oh, I love questions.
Okay.
I do.
The first is not a Star Wars question, but like not a universe question, but a casting question.
Oh, okay.
What were your thoughts on Flea as Vect Nokru?
He was fine. I mean, it was a little ridiculous, but it was fine.
I think that's almost the perfect answer. Fine, but a little ridiculous.
Yeah, there were kind of moments where he's a little over the top and you know, but yeah, he was fine.
Okay, how'd you feel about the friendly driver Freck?
Oh, played by Zach Braff,
who taxis them to the checkpoint.
Yeah,
where there's the gate they can't figure out how to get around.
Yeah, I thought that was fine.
I did like that he said, because he's kind of a pro-Empire guy.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, he's totally pro-Empire. Yeah.
He says, quote, nothing wrong with a little order, right?
Yep.
And I thought, wow, I think Star Wars is trying to get a little political here, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been kind of there. I mean, that you know, the Empire is what, you know, and that's one of the reasons why people go along with the Empire, is because, you know, it's order. We like order, we like structure, and we'll sell out anything for order and structure.
Right. I mean, when Star Wars originally debuted, it didn't feel like Americans would like Nazi structure.
Yeah. Oh,
Last
but we
couple
do.
of years have made me kind of question things, as it turns out.
Yeah, no. Well, there's again, there's perhaps a bit of an overlap between, you know, the Star Wars fans who complained about Moses Ingram and people who like Nazi structure.
Right. Who find Freck to be a perfectly understandable and relatable character.
Yeah, what are you going to do? You know, it's out of our hands.
It's a little bit of order, you know?
Yeah, a little bit of order.
Do you not?
Freck's living his best life within that order, so.
Yeah. Do you not believe in law and order? I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. What are you, some kind of godless Democrat? Sheesh.
Exactly. Bingo. So, there was not just one, but there were two Ben versus Anakin lightsaber duels.
Yes.
They live up to the hype for you?
Yeah, I actually thought they were pretty solid. You know, I liked the first one. I really liked the savagery of Vader in terms of, like, you know, pulling Ben into the fire. Like, I liked that.
Yes.
And then, yeah, I enjoyed the second one. You know, I thought, I was perfectly satisfied. Now, there are a group of people that are unsatisfied, in a way, with the first one, because that's one of the scenes that Lego has made a set of, is the first fight. And it's almost universally been critiqued by Star Wars Lego fans as the worst Lego set ever, because it's just a giant, like, gray block or you know, platform that they're standing on. So
yeah,
a lot of people are not fans of that.
That does sound a little lame.
That's it. But yeah, I enjoyed. I liked again. I liked the interaction between Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, particularly in the final scene, the final fight scene between them. Yeah. I was perfect. I was. Yeah.
So, to me, when they filmed it real dark, it looked like Ben was carrying a fluorescent light, which I found a little off-putting. It seemed like a less threatening lightsaber. It looked like, okay. Something in a... But, but so what struck me is how dirty they fought in the second one. Like, they're not just using their lightsabers, they're like throwing rocks at each other and everything. And I thought to myself, why don't they do that in lightsaber duels down the road? It's like, I always thought there was like this sense of honor to a Jedi battle if they could do all these other things, but they never do.
It is one of the
strange.
Yeah, well, it's one of the issues of like doing the modern, doing the prequels and everything now, because you go back and you watch like that first lightsaber duel in New Hope between Vader and Kenobi, where they're literally just like jabbing at each other with their lightsabers and like. Right. It's right. So compared to what they're doing now, it's kind of sad. So
maybe they're just old men at this point, and it's like the best they can do.
I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of somewhat that way, but yeah, it is kind of. It's like, wow, they used to be really, really good with the lightsabers, and now it's like they're just standing in place and kind of. Right. Very hesitantly kind of jabbing at each other. I'm like, yeah, it's not as, again, that it's something you've got to kind of suspend the disbelief on.
Right. Not like it used to be.
Yeah.
I guess. Hey, how many times do you have to slice a stormtrooper with a lightsaber to kill them?
10 to 12, usually.
Let me see. A 1, a 2, a 3.
I get it. I understood that reference.
Did you appreciate the reference to the old?
That's a good one.
Tootsie Pops.
Tootsie Pop. That's right. The owl. Yes.
Mr.
Yeah,
Owl.
even Rich got it.
Yeah, I used to love those things as a kid.
Yeah. So.
I'm surprised you know the commercial though.
Yeah, the commercials.
That feels like an ancient commercial to me.
That feels like
it was one of those ones that just stuck in my head.
Like that feels like more like Mayan Allen's generation than.
Yeah.
Than yours.
Anyway, in the film, I felt like a couple of the people with lightsabers really needed to kind of like sharpen them a little bit.
Rich Baldovan. Rich Baldovan remembers the Tootsie Roll commercial, but not Orson Welles.
Who?
Oh.
Did he make like Wells or something?
I think he made the Tootsie Roll commercial. I think he played the owl.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Somebody is turning over in their grave right now. Hey, why do sub-laser pistol shots kill and others don't?
Well, because some of them are set to stun and some of them are set to kill.
That's Star Trek.
So you set
you
set to kill people.
No, because in New Hope,
when
they confront Leia, on the blockade runner, the stormtrooper says, set for stun. So they have stun settings on their blasters. It is canon.
Okay, then let me ask you a question. How come whenever a named character is shot, it's always on stun, but when an unnamed character is shot, it's always on kill?
Well, I think your question kind of answers.
Here's another question. Why do the stormtroopers wear armor that clearly doesn't stop any kind of a blaster bolt?
I guess it's because they just want them to feel better going into battle to make them braver. It's a good question, though.
No, they're cannon fodder. Like, you want them to feel protected, but you don't really care if they are.
Right. Put on this thin plastic. You're going to be fine out there.
Yeah.
It's as if none of them ever come back for battle and say to their other, fellows who haven't been in battle, like, this armor is for shit, guys.
Well, I mean,
like, you may as well.
You may as well
wear a t-shirt and your underpants.
And
that's the whole point of the bad armor, is so that people don't come back and tell them about the bad armor.
Like, nobody sees their friend get blown to pieces and is like, man, that took his head clean off. This armor does nothing.
Yeah. It's absolutely useless.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, but I mean, the stormtroopers generally are pretty useless. I mean, they can't hit the broadside of a barn. with their blasters. It still reminds me of that moment in New Hope when they're seeing the Sandcrawler and Kenobi says, only Stormtroopers, shoot this precisely. I'm like, no, they don't. Like, that mean if those are precise shots, that means it's not Stormtroopers.
Yeah. That's any.
Although, one thing that I think is true is that authoritarians are often incompetent in ways that are surprising. Yeah. And so maybe that's the
guess.
point.
On the plus side,
it's shocking that it's never covered, like why the armor does nothing.
There was something in so I'm reading a collection of Star Wars short stories that was released for the anniversary of New Hope. And there was one in one of the stories that I read where it's actually the helmets. The helmets don't line up so you can see straight. Like the eye slits on the helmets are not well placed.
Why?
Because they're shoddily made.
Why keep making them?
Because when you have a contract with a person, you can't break the contract.
What do you mean
it's
contract?
Like a military.
Yeah,
it's like a military-industrial complex.
Exactly.
Problem. I hear you. Yeah.
Maybe the military doesn't need another $1 billion jet, but they're getting another $1 billion jet.
There you go. And, helmets that you can't see out of.
Yeah, exactly. But they look
don't
sharp.
Block sticks and whatnot because the Ewoks could still take them out.
Right. Yes, exactly. Get hit by a stone and you're done.
That is true. Yeah, the Ewok. They're well, they're more. It's really about the fashion.
The fashion.
Maybe so. So I know we're running up on time, but I've got at least one more question I really have to ask.
Okay.
There's the scene where Ben surrenders himself to Reva.
Yes.
I think he's realized that.
Yes, I think I know where
Reva wants to use him to get close to Vader.
Yes.
And they literally have a whispered conversation that feels like it runs for 10 minutes.
Yes. Also within 5 feet of a whole army of Stormtroopers. Right.
Is nobody listening? Is nobody suspicious enough? They're not going to kind of lean in and turn their ear that way. It was ridiculous.
That would be rude.
Here, I do have a possible canon explanation for that.
Okay.
In that, I'm trying. I think it was in New Hope when Luke and Han are wearing the Stormtrooper helmets. I think doesn't one of them mention that they can't hear anything with the helmet on?
But weren't there other people there too, or was it just Stormtroopers?
I think they were all. I think except for Reva, I think they all had helmets on, or there might have been some Imperial officers there that just had the gray hats.
And also, couldn't it mean that Han Solo put on a helmet that didn't fit him?
Yeah, possible. Well, but
Or to be clear, now what you're saying is they're outfitting their Stormtroopers in outfits that do not protect them.
Correct.
From which they cannot see.
Yep.
And from which they cannot hear.
Yes.
So, am I putting this helmet on?
To be clear.
Can they actively not hear
Right.
Well, yes, on one hand, this would explain why the Stormtrooper is so bad at aiming. It does not explain how there could be an Empire at all. Because you can't have people that poorly equipped and then win anything.
Sure you can. Once you've wiped out all of the people that could possibly oppose you, then you don't really need competent people to maintain the order.
Yeah, but how do you do that step one?
How do you wipe them out? Yes, you've jumped to step 2. But you've not completed step 1.
But no, they wiped them out with Order 66 when you had the very competent clones that then you got rid of. That killed all of the Jedi. Yeah,
the Jedi are the main resistance. A lot of people with guns, planets worth of people with guns who are not wearing any helmets and might actually be wearing armor that blocks blaster bolts.
Yeah, but clearly they're not. They're all a bunch of hippie Alderanians that believe in peace and whatnot.
Clearly, the galaxy was just ripe for conquering by anybody.
It's a very easily conquerable. It's a lot of sheep.
A lot of sheep.
It's a lot of sheep. And when you got a lot of sheep, you only need a couple wolves.
Or sick,
but you have none.
Wolves.
You have literally zero.
You have blind,
no, they've got Vader. Vader is a wolf.
That have
blind.
Half the teeth.
You've got Vader. Vader is the one person who got a good helmet.
Too bad he doesn't have... It's a shame he doesn't have a gun.
They blew their helmet budget on Vader, and so they had to do... They didn't have as much money for other people's helmets.
Wouldn't it be great, though, if a Stormtrooper just went up to Vader before they were being deployed and just said, hey, could we just swap helmets for this one?
Yeah,
just for the bat. You wear the white one, I wear the black one. It'll be good.
Can you see out of that, Lord Vader? You can clearly hear me, which is already.
Or maybe they start knocking on the ear hole. Hello, McFly.
They're like doing like some stormtroopers are doing like ad hoc like mods where they're like drilling holes in the sides of their helmet so they can hear better.
There's a whole untapped potential of Star Wars stories there.
Oh yeah.
Yes. The Stormtrooper sniper is basically an average shooter.
No, the sniper is the guy who cut eye holes in the front like a bed sheet, so you can actually see.
You're a stormtrooper sniper, right? Yeah. He's like, so how good of a shot are you?
Yeah.
10 out of 20 shots. Right. 10 out of 20 shots.
Okay.
50% accuracy. That's unheard of.
I like that Rich says that what he would do is put on a Ku Klux Klan hood before he went
like
to
a
shoot.
Ghost.
I missed that.
Like a ghost.
Well, I missed that.
Yeah.
He said they would like cut holes in a pillowcase so they could see better.
Oh, okay.
And that's not an old-timey ghost. That's the KKK, of course. That's where some people's minds go.
Well, I'm just saying, the Stormtroopers are kind of modeled on
Just because they're dressed fully in white and are killing everybody but humans in some sort of xenophobic rage does not imply that they are a reference to the KKK.
Yeah. You know what? There are fine people on both sides.
Oh, yes. On both the Empire. Well, I mean, there's Tala, who was a devoted Imperial, and came to realize that that was wrong.
So they stopped people becoming an Imperial.
So, and then there's what's her face from Rebels? I'm forgetting her name. The Mandalorian.
No, you guys are going deeper than I can right now.
Yeah.
Well, you're probably going to want to watch Rebels because I have a feeling upcoming series are going to be treading pretty deeply into Rebels lore.
I don't want to see anything about the Rebels.
Okay. Rich just sounded like a child being told to go to his room. I don't want to see anything about that.
I will not take my medicine. Thank you very much.
I have my expanded universe Rebels, and I will not have them destroyed by the monolith of Disney.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we haven't even talked about Mara Jade's appearance in the show.
Is that actually a thing that happens?
No, it's not a thing that happens.
I don't know who Mara Jade is, so I can't
she's like
comment.
One of the fan favorite characters from the extended universe. She eventually marries Luke.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a long time afterwards.
She was originally sent to hunt down Luke, and then they fall in love, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah, of course. The old enemies to friends trope.
I still say if they really wanted to piss the extended Star Wars universe fans, when they revealed that Rey was the grandchild of the Emperor, they should have made like Mara Jade, who the Emperor got pregnant.
Oh man!
Like they should.
There you go.
That actually made me gave me some pain for a second just imagining that.
I know. Yeah.
Oh my!
Like my God.
Yep, that would have been just the nail in the coffin.
And nobody anybody that didn't read the books like who?
Yeah.
Like watching the movie, he's like, what? And then there's another half the audience is pissed off.
It's literally just to enrage the Star Wars fans.
Hey, speaking of nails in coffins.
Yes. Do you feel like have we beaten this horse dead?
Do you think we've
Grogu dead?
Do you think we've? I was going to say, have we buried Ben Kenobi?
Yeah, possibly. But that's fine.
I really thought this was going to be a slog for me today, but you guys were actually much more upset than I was, which is shocking turn of events.